What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at The Irishman, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci. The Irishman tells the story of Frank Sheeran and his rise in the ranks of the mafia. We see his early days as a truck driver to his early introduction into the mafia, which eventually led to his friendship with one Jimmy Hoffa, who was a very powerful teamster and union leader. So, what are my thoughts on The Irishman? I thought this movie was great. I thoroughly enjoyed The Irishman. This is Martin Scorsese at his best. This movie could very well be the last time we ever see De Niro, Pacino, and Joe Pesci on screen with one another. All three of those men together on screen together. And they brought their A game. This movie pretty much could have possibly gave us the best performances from De Niro and Pacino that we have not seen in a very, very long time. These two men bring their A game. Robert De Niro as Frank Sheeran, he is fantastic. He steals the show. De Niro proves that even and a man who is in his mid to early in his mid 70s, going into his 80s, he is still a tour de force as an actor. He is still a powerhouse actor. When you give this man material that he can sink his teeth into, he is going to bring his A game and prove why he is one of the greatest living American actors of any generation. De Niro as Frank Sheeran, he's fantastic. Al Pacino as Jimmy Hoffa, he is just as good. This is Pacino's best movie in God knows how long. I thought he played Jimmy Hoffa brilliantly. I love the scenes with De Niro and Pacino together. It's always fun seeing these two men act off one another. You can see their real life friendship in these scenes. They have such a very understated chemistry with one another, and it's a damn shame that they barely acted off one another in movies. I think prior to this, the only other time they acted off one another was in Heat, which is another fantastic movie. But in this movie, they have more scenes together. We see them interact more as Sheeran and Jimmy Hoffa, and the relationship between these two characters develop, and it's very genuine, and it pays off in a brilliant yet sad way when you get to near the end of the movie where Sheeran kills Jimmy Hoffa, and this is what led to the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa, where his body to this day was never found. And the movie pretty much says that Sheeran killed Hoffa and then they cremated his body. And it's actually a very sad moment when it happens, because throughout the movie, Sheeran and Hoffa, they're tight. They're very close friends. And when Sheeran kills Hoffa, you can sense that he did not want to do it, but he had to do it. And it plays brilliantly, and the sadness that De Niro portrays plays brilliantly off screen because it's very understated and it's not overblown. But you can sense the regret when he does it. Awesome stuff. De Niro proving he can still fucking convey those emotions perfectly. And like I said, Pacino in this movie, he's the best he's ever been. He brings that Pacino energy that he's known for, and for a man who's close to his 80s, he still has that energy, and it's fun to see. This movie also brings us the return of Joe Pesci, who plays a character called Russell, who is the one who brings Sheeran in to the mob and has relations to Jimmy Hoffa himself. And Joe Pesci as Russell, he's fantastic. This is Joe Pesci's first movie in God knows how long. He was a man who was unofficially retired, never publicly came out as retired. And I think the last thing I can recall seeing Joe Pesci in was those Snickers commercials, as opposed to a movie. I can't really answer that because I really don't know. But Joe Pesci, it's as if he never left the screen. He is brilliant in this movie. A beautiful return to form for Joe Pesci. Now, this is one of Joe Pesci's more dialed down and laid back performances. Yes, you can take into account to his old age, but I think it fits the tone of this movie very, very perfectly. He's not dialed down. He's not ramped up. He's not, overblown. He's very scaled down, and it fits the tone and it fits the mood of this movie. And I love the chemistry with him and De Niro. Pesci and De Niro always had outstanding chemistry, dating back to Goodfellas and Casino. And I think this was also the first movie to actually give us an interaction between Joe Pesci, Pacino, and De Niro, all three of them in a movie together. I could be wrong. Correct me down below. But if I'm right, what a way to do it in The Irishman, which could very well be the swan song for Scorsese, De Niro, Pacino, and Pesci, because who knows how many more movies these four men have left. These four are the definition of what I call cinema royalty. These are the four kings of cinema royalty. who brought countless classic movies all throughout their 40 to 50 plus decade career. And The Irishman is a swan song. If it is, what a way to go! You go out giving your best performance, giving probably your best performances in years. Now, as opposed to a supporting cast, this movie's got a very solid supporting cast. You have Ray Romano, who I thought was really, really good and had a lot of subtle comedy to his character. You have Harvey Keitel in a nice little role in this movie. Always fun seeing Harvey Keitel. Jesse Plemons, Todd from Breaking Bad, is in this movie. He plays the foster child of Jimmy Hoffa, and I like the couple of scenes he's in as well. His best scene is probably in a courtroom where he charges after a man with a gun who tries to kill Hoffa inside the courtroom. And he also has this very entertainingly funny scene where he and another character are talking about fish because his car smells like fish. So that's a pretty humorous Tarantino-esque type scene, which I actually really, really like. You also have more. You have Bobby Cannavale, who has a little appearance in this movie. Anna Paquin appears in this movie. You know, they're minor roles, yes, but, you know, they're fine. They do a good job at filling out the void. And you also have other minor characters as well, who also have little entertaining scenes here and there. But the movie never gets lost. It always stays focused on its primary story. This movie is told through flashbacks, and it's told through the point of view of Frank Sheeran, because this movie is based on a book that an autobiography by Sheeran himself. So it's told through his perspective. So we're getting details coming from him. And De Niro bookends the movie as playing old Sheeran, and then he plays young Sheeran. And he plays young Sheeran all throughout the movie. And they use the digital de-aging process. Now, in some scenes, the digital de-aging looks good. In other scenes, it looks very janky, it looks kind of weird, and it looks really, really bad. There are certain scenes where Al Pacino's digital de-age looks really just weird, especially with his facial expressions. It looks kind of janky. And then there are certain scenes with Joe Pesci, who's been digital de-aged in some scenes, again, where it looks kind of janky. Same thing with Robert De Niro itself. Does that take away from performances? Absolutely not, it doesn't, because these three actors are so talented that you can look past the jankiness of the digital de-aging process. In terms of a production value, this movie is fantastic. Scorsese captures the time period of the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s beautifully. His direction, as always, is on point. The cinematography in this movie is picture perfect, beautiful. Costume designs, fantastic as well. The utilization of music in this movie, it fits. There's this one song that plays all throughout the movie, which kind of encompasses what this movie is all about. You know, this old-timey feel movie that's pretty much a last hurrah. This movie, when you watch it, it feels like a last hurrah. It doesn't feel like a movie where you're going to get something where it feels like a last hurrah. It feels like a send-off for all these people. It's almost as if this is like Scorsese, Pesci, Pacino, and De Niro kind of doing a farewell letter to fans of movies. Like the movie comes across as this is the last time you might see all these actors together, and it kind of has that somberness to it, especially at the end of the movie, which is beautiful. So yeah, The Irishman I thought was brilliant. I think this is a fantastic movie. This is Martin Scorsese at his best. You know, minus some criticisms I do have with it, like the digital de-aging process. And yes, this movie is 3.5 hours long, and there are moments where you're going to feel the length of that movie, of this movie, because there are a lot of slow parts in this movie, and the movie does take its time, and it does build up, and it does have a gradual build up, and you're going to have some slow spots in that movie where you got to really sit through them until you get to the good stuff. But this movie has more good than it does bad. And I highly do recommend it if you're a fan of Scorsese, De Niro, Pacino, and Joe Pesci as well. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on The Irishman. Overall, I'm going to give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. I think this is one of Scorsese's best movies in a long time. And it's definitely the best movie that De Niro and Pacino have done in a long, long time. And as a send-off and love letter, what a way to go. So yes, 9 out of 10 for The Irishman. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.